Today I will talk about this presentation. The theme is about accelerating infrastructure as code development. First, I will start by promoting myself a little bit. So I'm currently a tech lead in a multi-functional, cross-functional DevOps team. Sorry. Thanks. That builds cloud-native applications for our customers at Deloitte. I also hold a master's degree in information systems, and I consider myself a software thinker because I like to toy and develop with a lot of open source tools and try to combine them to create a cool output. Also, I have some certifications in AWS. So if you want to migrate your existing production or workloads into AWS and you want to leverage all the cool and optimize your costs, please contact me and we can arrange that. Also, I'll provide here some contact options. So today, if you are not leveraging automated tools such as infrastructure as code in order to deploy your resources into your environments, you are really missing out, especially when you have a lot of junior employees in your company, and they start creating their resources in the web console, for example, in AWS or Azure or Google Cloud. And they play around with the console and they don't implement these new resources that have been created within the continuous integration and continuous development pipeline. So what happens is that on dev, there's a lot of resources created that might never get deployed into production and are either missed because, for example, because of the turnover that are on companies, someone leaves out and is not present in order to deploy whatever is configured into the rest of the environments. So this can happen, and these resources are left out of the rest of the environments. This can be called ClickOps. So a developer goes into the console and creates a resource. And the best scenario could be that a developer first considers infrastructure as code and configures all the resources that he wants for its solution and integrates it into a CI/CD pipeline. If it integrates into a CI/CD pipeline, that will take care of the creation of everything on each environment, and we will have iterations and consistent environments. Nothing will be forgotten behind. And the developers just need to create infrastructure as code files. However, especially if the developers are very junior and they are still getting the benefits of the cloud, they will shy away from creating these infrastructure as code configuration files. So they will revert back again to the web console and playing around with it, especially if they want to try a new solution, a proof of concept, just trying things out, they will go back to this. So the main idea is that creating these infrastructure as code files is not very the development workflow. There's some friction there, and we need to really optimize this. Recently, recently, Terraform as the Terraform team. So I will talk more about this specific tool because this feature was integrated in this tool. Release a feature in order to really accelerate the development of this infrastructure. It's called artifacts. Importing previously created state into the tool was available. However, the developer needed to fill out still the configuration files. Recently, it was made generally available that these resources that are created within the environment, either whatever cloud provider that we are working on, are able to be imported, and then the configuration file is created automatically. This really accelerates the process because the developers no longer need to fill out the big configuration blocks with the specific properties, and they can still leverage doing ClickOps and integrating that into infrastructure as code files, and then delivering it into a CI/CD pipeline that, as we can see, deploys consistently into the respective environments. We just need to do a simple block, an import statement that, for example, here, I will put here an example for a Redis cache example. Let's consider that we are facing a problem where our requests are taking a little bit of time, and we want to find a cool solution. We have to create a proof of concept that we want to deliver these results back to the user on the front end faster. And why do we want to query always the database if that value does not change? We can just cache that value and retrieve it fast. We can create an Elastic Cache cluster and do that. However, to implement these components into our infrastructure, we need to conceptualize and then integrate that into the environment. And the time between conceptualization and delivery, the gap will be big if we don't allow this generative culture to accelerate this process. So here, the developer has created it in the AWS console or Google Cloud or Azure. In this case, just AWS. And he has played around, he implemented the proof of concept, okay, but now we need to integrate this into a pipeline. And we don't want to lose what we have created. So we can leverage this import statement. Then we can run this command, and then we just need to input a file that this configuration is going to be stored. And then this is the example. So the developer has created that on the web console, and here is already what he has created with everything that he has configured. However, this is cool, but it does not really integrate it in the infrastructure as code that we have already created, especially, for example, when these resources are dependent on other resources. What we'll have is just an ID. In this case, on AWS, it's called ARNs, so the reference to other resources are going to be there. And there are some refactoring patterns that we can use there here in order to chain these import statements, and you can import your whole cloud account into infrastructure as code. With this, You can use the moved statements, and you can refactor your newly imported resources into the specific modules that you want to put them. So you've just used a module that is already cool, but you want to add a new resource, you can just use the moved resource and that will be moved there. This is just a remark about refactoring patterns. Here, as you can see, you never want to have hard-coded ARNs. You can import those resources as well. So, like I mentioned before, chaining them, that is very important. Using as data sources if you don't want to manage those in infrastructure as code. And then that's it. So with this simple feature, you are able to accelerate your infrastructure as code development. You can improve the productivity of your developers because they will iterate faster on their solutions if they go to if they do ClickOps. They will iterate very fast. However, it does not scale into further environments. So when he imports that into infrastructure as code, they will understand the infrastructure better because they will see what really takes to configure the resources. This is very cool for junior staff. And yeah, so these manual created resources can be then integrated into a CI/CD. And one added benefit, we reduce errors, those things that are forgotten and those things that are misconfigured on later stages. And yeah, that's it from my side. However, I have an idea, and if you want to collaborate, please contact me. So this tool can generate all the code. However, the developer needs to run those commands and still refactor that and integrate it into the normal infrastructure as code that they own. And I have here an idea where if we could create a browser extension, for example, a Chrome extension, that could monitor our web console activity and track all the resources that we create. And then in a background task, either whatever language that we want to run, it runs these commands, so it generates the configuration and then imports that into infrastructure as code files and delivers it into our IDE of choice, for example, VS Code. And then the developer, after he was done with his proof of concept or he has created his solution, he just needs to audit or edit the code. What about that? If you are now doing infrastructure as code development, would you like this workflow? Just an idea. And yeah, so this is a small talk, and I will now take some questions. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you. During lightning talks, we don't have questions, but I will allow one or two questions if the audience want to do questions. Yeah. I saw you.
Hey, thanks for your presentation. Have you tried, for example, create all the infrastructure with ClickOps, for example, for a specific environment, let's say for development or staging environment, and then import everything into everything you have created using ClickOps, imported everything into Terraform's files using the technique you've shown, right? And then kind of do some adaptations, some refactor as you've shown, to create, for example, the production infrastructure fully created through Terraform and not using ClickOps.
Everything, no. I've created already some proof. Since this feature has been released, I've been using and abusing it for integrating my proof of concepts and solutions into infrastructure as code. So I'm no longer I no longer need to go into the documentation in the documentation pages and look for all the different properties and configure everything in code. I can just play around, do this proof of concept, and then integrate that. However, I haven't yet done all the different setup of an account. That is better to be done as standard infrastructure as code modules, and either integrate it into a platform engineering solution that can set up the standard of an account, and then just giving that as a use case account, and then allowing your developers to play around in that sandbox.
Right. Yeah. Okay. It sounds a great thing to do when we don't know very much about Terraform and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's a very good thing that we can import and then understand all the properties and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a great talk. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to highlight. So this feature is very great, as you said, for someone that has not yet is not yet productive or efficient using infrastructure as code. So this is a good way to start learning and not missing out what are the benefits of infrastructure as code. But for someone who is more senior, it's a 50-50, maybe shifting a little bit into to this new feature. Thanks. That's all.
I have a question. It's a little bit related with Marcio, as said. You have talked about POC and then importing the resources. You could use maybe a tool like Terraform to help on that case. And another suggestion I would say to you, maybe you try a different approach. In this case, you are using only Terraform for infrastructure as code. Maybe you could check Pulumi. It's also a tool, infrastructure as code. And with the Pulumi, you can put your developers developing in their own languages like Python or Go or Java or whatever. They have support for many languages. And they can import the resources from the POC themselves with the Pulumi as well. So the concept you're doing, maybe it could be a little bit simplified with tools like Pulumi or Terraformer. That's my suggestion to you. Not really a question, because Marcio already have done the question that I wanted to ask you. That's my 5 cents.
What I just presented here is Terraform and the new feature that they have been released, which really helps import the resources that have been created outside of Terraform, not managed by Terraform, and integrate that into the state and start managing these resources by Terraform. This is what I've just presented.
Okay.
I talked about Terraform. I did not talk about other tools because I'm not familiar with Pulumi. However, if this is available on other infrastructure as code tools, this workflow can be applied as well. So here, this was the example for Terraform, but here you can replace Terraform with other infrastructure as code that supports generating, automating this workflow of what is already available as resources into infrastructure as code files. So just wanted to clarify that.
I understand you. I was telling you that there are already tools that can help you with that. Terraformer, for instance, imports the resources from your cluster that you have created manually, for instance, and they create the Terraform files and the state that is, the objects and the resources are already having in the cluster, and that gets imported to your project. So those tools already existed to help you, and Terraformer is one tool that was created from the guys from Waze, the mobile app to GPS.
Yeah, so they probably use Terraform or underneath, or they use the cloud provider SDKs in order to do introspection into the accounts and monitor for API calls for creating resources. However, the workflow is the same. Someone is doing ClickOps and then importing into the state, and the message that I wanted to give here is that we shouldn't miss the infrastructure as code approach, and not to miss out on everything that is created outside of these tools and imported into the state. Terraform previously was able to already do some introspection of what is available on the account. It was able to import state into its state. However, this workflow was a little bit not friendly. The developer experience was not good. And with this new feature, it's just a flag. We don't need another tool. You don't need to check for security vulnerabilities of that tool. It's already within the tool that we use. And yeah, just this flag. Thanks for the suggestion. Terraform.